Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Hagen Walker on the line, and he's at the Glow Companies. Hagen, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Adam.
All right, so interested to get into today's topic. So definitely want to get into the Glow Companies. I understand that it started as a classroom project at Mississippi State University, so we'll get into that and more, especially that evaluation. But before we do, I'm curious about you, Hagen. So where did this kind of entrepreneurial journey start for you? Where did that start?
Yeah, I never really called it that, but I guess I've always kind of had the itch. Back in high school, I started a computer company that grew to be one of the largest in Mississippi while I was still a student in high school. And from there,
Wow.
Did a short stint at Tesla out in California before, launching the Glow Companies and some of our major brands. Glow Pals is the biggest, the children's sensory toy brand. And I'm sure we'll get into that here in just a minute.
So hold on, go back to high school for a minute with me. So one of the largest computer, how did you do that? Like, where'd that start from? That's interesting. Your parents who is this kid? Where'd you get that from?
Yeah, I really don't know. I always kind of had a knack with computers, and there was a local recycling plant right down the road from our house, and I just went and knocked on their door one day and asked if I could, go through the recycling stuff that they got every day, and they told me I could, and so I would take parts and make recycled computers and, sell them at low cost for,
Wow.
Families and others that needed them.
Wow. That's amazing. What an amazing story. What kind of did that early inspiration of how to create and how to make something happen, or even how to make something out of, something that other people were really literally throwing away, did that carry forward or influence you as you kind of grew through your entrepreneurial side and got older?
Absolutely. I think it's, always important to be working on something that can help others, and I think that was a really pivotal lesson early on.
And so let's fast forward a bit here. So the Glow Company, maybe start with just an overview.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple of brands, and I can tell you the backstory. It'll make a little bit more sense. So when I got to college, I was studying electrical engineering, and I had a friend studying graphic design. And her professor gave them a task. They had to create a conceptual company that drew your eye to a product. And they were all given a random object. She was given a teacup. And she said, well, if I can make this drink light up, then that'll draw your eye to the product and I'll get an A. And so, like I said, I was studying graphic design, and we figured out how to make liquid activated light up drink cubes. So you might have seen these around. You drop them in your drink, they light up, change colors. We have the patent on that. And so we started making those, while I was still in college. And, we had some early success. We were selling to bars and restaurants around the U.S., but really what changed, those are called Glow Cubes. And really what changed, though, was we had a mom find one of those, take it home, and put it in the bath for her son that had autism. And it was the first time in months that he got in the tub without crying, because it helped redirect his senses to something more positive because of the light. And she reached out and told us that story, and my business partner said, we really need to do something in the children's space. And so we actually created the Glow Pals brand, which is the children's sensory brand I mentioned earlier. So the Glow Companies encompasses a few different things, but those are our two primary consumer brands, Glow Cubes and Glow Pals.
What gave you the confidence to kind of expand into the children market? That's obviously one story and that's one thought, but it's hard to, you get some feedback, get something else, and we're all entrepreneurs. We have lots of ideas, right? What gave you the confidence to go in that direction?
Yeah, when we had first started Glow Cubes, we went to the Entrepreneurship Center at Mississippi State. And like I said, I'd never done anything like this formally. I thought I was going to work for Tesla full time. And I learned something there. You pick up these tidbits along the way. And the director at the time of that Entrepreneurship Center, his name was Eric Hill, he said, it's always important. Entrepreneurs sometimes have an issue with being teachable. Always be teachable. You always want to, make sure that you're not the smartest guy in the room and that you're listening and taking customer feedback. And I think that, all kind of happened right at the right time. And that was in 2018. So what happened was Glow Cubes was doing pretty well. But then in 2019, COVID hit, and all the bars and restaurants we were selling the light up drink cubes to closed. And everyone was at home on a Zoom call.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, everyone was at home on a Zoom call trying to entertain their kids, and so Glow Pals really took off and became our number one brand. And so it was a little bit of timing, maybe a little bit of luck, or at the time it seemed pretty unlucky, honestly. But and then being teachable, yeah.
Wow, what a story! And obviously, I don't know anybody that's like a fan of that COVID happened. But what's always interesting to me when something like that's perceived and that maybe shakes up the world. Like you look at a Great Depression, or you look at all these other things, and many ideas and businesses and other things like good also came out of that. So I love hearing a story like that, where you're like, you pivot and you're like, okay, and that flexibility for you to recognize, pivot, and execute like that. I can't imagine that was hard or easy. I mean, I can't imagine that was easy, right?
Absolutely, yeah, and it's so fun. I mean, funny now looking back, but in the moment,
of course, it's always funny in retrospect, for sure.
Yeah,
when you're going through it, it's not that fun.
Exactly. Yeah, you always wonder what's going to happen next, but you put one foot in front of the other, and always try to keep your eye on a goal, and hopefully you get there.
So what does it mean to you? I know that you mentioned this earlier. So it started originally in Mississippi. What does it mean about starting outside of maybe the traditional innovation centers or hubs or things like that? And I know you mentioned you're at Tesla, so that's obviously a Ford company. I'm curious what it means for you to be out of Mississippi doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we hear from time to time, people ask us for advice as our company has continued to grow. And I heard just the other day, someone was like, well, when I move to Atlanta, maybe I'll give this idea I have a go. And I kind of think that might be the wrong perspective. We started here in this small town. It's a little college town, but there's a lot of talent here, but there's also a lot of support. And sometimes you get more support in a small community that can surround you. And so when we were first starting out, this was way back in the early days, we actually got an invite to go out to LA to a Academy Award pre-party and showcase our Glow Cubes. And we didn't have the money to do it. And the community rallied together and actually paid for our plane tickets to go out there. And that was a pivotal time for the company to grow. And, that kind of stuff is very important. And so we're moving our headquarters in the same town, but we just acquired a building that's about 60,000 square feet that's going to hold some of our operations. So, yeah, it's cool to be able to invest in a place that, really is supportive of growth and effort, and to be able to hire 30-plus employees in that town,
Wow. That's amazing. I love a story like this and bringing this to my audience. What's your vision for raising capital, expanding otherwise? You mentioned the new headquarters. What's your vision going forward? Talk to me.
Yeah, we really have a vision for our Glow Pals. They're their own little characters. We really want those to have kind of a character development of their own. We have a partnership with Sesame Street, and the idea would be that, we can continue to create toys and products that really, they're not just for fun, but they also serve a purpose, like our Light Up Cubes, helping that child with autism. We have some of our products that are used for, at eye clinics. We have products in classrooms. And it kind of goes back to that computer, thing I mentioned earlier about, trying to design and build things that are purposeful.
Amazing. Hagen, this has been a lot of fun having you on today and learning more about your background, what you're doing with the Glow companies, and how you're really, when I started with cubes, right, bars, other things like that, and transition, well, obviously that part still goes, but now you're helping kids too and have this whole other niche, other way to be of purpose and serve others. I just love it. I think it's great. Great story. Hagen, how do people follow your journey, follow the brands and otherwise? How do people connect?
Yeah, absolutely. Our main site is glow.co. You can find all the brands and more information about us directly at glow.co.
Awesome. For everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so that you can check out glow.co and connect with Hagen and his team. And speak to the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. You heard me correct. Each and every day we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So hit that subscribe or follow. And Hagen, wishing you and your team much more continued success, and congrats on the expansion and all the good stuff happening. I'm looking forward to picking up my next cubes and whatnot. So this is awesome. Thank you for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam.